Hello everyone, welcome. I am Shalini Pandey, Assistant Professor of English in Government TCL PG College, Janjgir. And in this today's session, we are going to discuss character sketch of Lady Macbeth. In your exams, questions may come like write a character sketch of Lady Macbeth. It is a very important character from the play Macbeth. So let's begin the discussion. Lady Macbeth is possibly Shakespeare's most famous and vivid female character. She is a very famous character and she is vivid also, full of life. She is generally depicted in popular minds as a epitome of evil, and images of her appear over and over again in several cultures. She is usually portrayed in the picture as a something like a Disney character, a cross between Cruella de Vil and the wicked stepmother in Snow White. So, in many minds who have read Macbeth, her character is comes like a very evil character, like a stepmother of Snow White from Disney, and Cruella. You must know, must be knowing. So she was considered a very evil character overall. One of the Shakespeare's most well-known and terrifying female character is Lady Macbeth. She is more physically powerful and she is more cruel and more ambitious than her husband. And when we see her, she is already planning Duncan's murder. It is her master plan that we have to kill Duncan to get a crown of Scotland. She appears to be completely aware of this and is prepared to pressure Macbeth into killing someone. She thinks to him herself at a one point that if she weren't a woman, she would do it herself. So such kind of character is Lady Macbeth. She is a very important character in the play Macbeth, and so to say at least, Lady Macbeth is a complex character. On the one side, she is utterly feminine and full of tenderness, and on the other hand, she is very harsh and cruel also. And in her nature, there is a constant fight between natural femininity, woman values, and callous cruelty. There is always a conflict between cruelty and femininity. Thus, we find a fascinating combination of contrasting qualities in her character. The contrast make her a charming character. She is a more captivating character than Macbeth also. So, this theme of character relationship between gender and power is the key to the Lady Macbeth's character. Her husband implies that she is a masculine soul inhabiting a female body, which seems to link masculinity to the ambitions and violence. So even her husband thinks that she has qualities of a male, not much of female, and she is so brave. She is so means cruel. And Shakespeare, however, seems to use her and the witches to undercut Macbeth's idea that undaunted metal should compose nothing but males. This crafty woman used female methods of achieving power, that is manipulation, to further their supposedly male ambitions. So this Lady Macbeth makes plan how to kill Duncan, and in order to get the crown of Scotland, which is thought that this kind of violence and this kind of strategy can only be done by male, but she has done it all. Women, the play implies, can be an ambitious and cruel as men also. Yet social constraints deny them the means to pursue these ambitions on their own. Lady Macbeth manipulates her husband with remarkable effectiveness. She is very effective in manipulating her, in convincing Macbeth to kill Duncan, overriding all her his objections. Earlier, Macbeth has many objections. He did not wanted to kill Duncan, When he hesitates to murder, she repeatedly questions his manhood. That are you man that you are not able to kill Duncan? I don't think you are a man. Until he feels that he must commit murder to prove himself. So she convinced him so much. She given so many arguments that until she that he at last totally convinced that okay, I will kill Duncan. Lady Macbeth's remarkable strength of will persists through the murder of the king. So she has a very strong willpower, and it is she who steadies her husband's nerves immediately after the crime has been perpetrated. So when Macbeth has killed King Duncan, he was very much disturbed. He was perspiring. He was hallucinating. It was Lady Macbeth who um, who made him steadied, who balanced his mind, Macbeth's mind, that you don't worry, nothing will happen. Blame will not come on upon us. So Lady Macbeth is an ambitious and a determined person. In her ambitions, Lady Macbeth may be contrasted with her husband's, whose downfall emanates from his vaulting ambitions. Macbeth has a very ambitious personality. At the beginning of the play, she displays far more strength of will than Macbeth. She was having more willpower than Macbeth, and while he hesitates and says we will proceed no further in this business, we will do it later on, of murdering King Duncan, it is she who does not waver even for a minute from her ambitions. She just wanted, and she wanted it. Her determination can be fathomed from her reaction after reading the letter her husband sent her after the meeting with the witches. So she was very much determined to get her goal. Now, afterwards, however, Lady Macbeth begins to slow slide into madness. Just follow my this cursor, red cursor. Uh, just an ambition affects her more strongly than Macbeth before the crime. So does guilt plague her more strongly afterward. But what happened afterward? After killing Duncan, her mental status totally deteriorated. She turned into madness. She started doing sleepwalking. She was not able to compose herself. She lose her control over her mind. So she was more ambitious, and she was later on she was more feeling more guilty. By the close of the play, she has been reduced to the sleepwalking through the castle. So when we come to the end of the play, that is in the fifth act and scene one, what happens? We see Lady Macbeth sleepwalking with her carrying a taper or a candle in her hands, desperately trying to wash away an invisible blood stain. She thought that she is having blood stain of Duncan's blood in her hand, and she is desperately washing it all the time. But it is that is a smell, and that stain is not going. Once the sense of guilt comes to settle, Lady Macbeth sensitivity becomes a weakness, and she is unable to cope. So she is not able to cope with the situation. She is full of guilty, and she is burning with guilty conscience. Significantly, she apparently kills herself. It is said in the latter part of the last act of the play that she committed suicide by falling from somewhere, or it is not sure, but she committed suicide, signaling her total inability to deal with the legacy of their crime. So she committed the crime, but she was not able to cope with that crime. So she committed crime. So we can say that cunning person. Lady Macbeth was a cunning person. Cunning and dissolutions can be seen in her mental setup. She was very cunning, but but Apart from that, she asked him to leave the great business into dispatch. She was very determined to do everything on her own, and so in this way. But Lady Macbeth's feminine nature is also there. Despite being a very practical and tactful person, Lady Macbeth is essentially a woman. Despite her devilish will and iron determination, she cannot wholly discard her feminine nature. This is so in spite of her determination to be unsexed. So we can't say that totally blame Lady Macbeth for that. So we can conclude that it is true that Lady Macbeth is not a naturally depraved or a conscienceless person. She has a conscience, but she deliberately choose evil. Her choice being more deliberate than her husband. Macbeth speaks of ambitions being his only spur, but he would never have overcome his reluctance to commit murder without the chastisement of his wife's tongue. So Macbeth could commit murder of King Duncan only and only because um, enhanced pressure of Lady Macbeth. She invokes the power of darkness to take possession of her, and these ministers of the darkness to take possession of her body, even in accordance to with her desire. So this darkness prevailed whole her personality, and she totally degenerated at last, and she committed suicide afterward. And this kind of this is a character of Lady Macbeth. Hope you like this video. Thank you so much.